Have you ever noticed how in real life the cruelest, most manipulative, and unscrupulous people always seem to come out on top? How do they conquer everything, power, money, success, while the good, honest, and just remain trapped in struggle, invisible and defeated? Could morality, ethics, justice, what we call right, actually be a weakness that prevents you from winning today? We will dive into the mind of Friedrich Nietzsche and reveal the shocking truth about power and success, why the worst people rise to the top, and what that means for you who want to win without losing your soul. Prepare to question everything you believed about morality, strength, and victory. We will explore the hidden codes of power, the psychology of elites, and the path to success that is not only momentary, but true and lasting. If topics like psychology, philosophy, and the darkness of the human soul interest you, subscribe to the channel. People life presents us with a bitter and almost impossible truth to accept. Not always do merit, honesty, or effort guarantee success in the reality we live in. The worst people, those who act with manipulation, dishonesty, and without any moral scruples, often reach the top. Meanwhile, the good, the upright, and those who fight to maintain their values remain trapped in a cycle of frustration, invisibility, and defeat. This disparity seems unfair, cruel, and even paradoxical, but it is not an isolated accident. It reveals a deep dynamic that governs human relationships, social structures, and the very essence of human nature. Throughout history, we come across countless examples that illustrate this reality. Tyrant emperors who crushed their adversaries to conquer empires, political leaders who rose through fear and manipulation, businessmen who stepped on allies to climb to financial power. In all these cases, integrity and kindness were not the weapons that guaranteed victory. On the contrary, it was relentless ambition, lack of scruples, and the willingness to sacrifice principles to pave the way for success. This finding is not only a moral critique, it is an observation about survival and the functioning of the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. But why does this happen? Why does the world reward those who step on others and ignore those who act honestly? To answer this question, we need to understand that we live in a competitive environment where resources are limited and survival depends on the ability to impose oneself. Competition is not only economic or social. It is a constant struggle for power and influence, where hesitation can mean losing everything. In this game, those who cling rigidly to a traditional moral code, who expect justice and reciprocity, end up being left behind by those who act quickly, who manipulate, who take advantage of loopholes, and who do not let themselves be limited by idealistic rules. This is a harsh reality that many prefer to ignore or deny, but that is rooted in the evolutionary psychology of human beings. Our mind was shaped to survive in hostile environments where the ability to dominate, take initiative, and even use force was essential to secure resources and protection. Traditional morality, in many ways, acts as a brake. It is a social system that seeks to limit the power of the strongest in the name of peaceful coexistence, but that can also restrain those who want to impose themselves. Thus, morality can be seen, paradoxically, as a tool created by the weaker to defend themselves from the stronger. In this context, the individuals who dominate the world are often those who have learned to play this game without the shackles of rigid morality. They know that power does not wait for justice, does not care about kindness, and does not recognize merits that are not accompanied by strength and strategy. They advance, impose their wills, and do not ask for permission. For them, success is an achievement to be taken, not a reward to be expected. This relentlessness may seem cruel or inhuman, but it is precisely this characteristic that guarantees their dominance in an environment where hesitation is synonymous with defeat. However, this scenario should not be seen only with pessimism or resignation. The uncomfortable truth that arises from this reality is not an invitation to dishonesty or unrestrained cruelty, but a call to understand power in its essence. Power is neither good nor bad in itself. It is a neutral force, a tool that can be used for good or for evil. Understanding how this force works, the dynamics that lead someone to win, is the first step so that those who value integrity can find more effective ways to achieve their goals, without becoming slaves to the morality of the weak nor relentless tyrants. Furthermore, it is essential to realize that the immediate success achieved by those who act without ethics is often fleeting and fragile. History is full of examples of tyrants, manipulators, and unscrupulous people who fell, often with a crash, because they built their power on unstable foundations, without wisdom or respect. Relentlessness alone does not guarantee lasting victory. Those who build with exploitation, fear, and manipulation run the risk of being consumed by the very forces they used to rise. Thus, the question is not only why the worst people succeed, but also if that success is worth it and how long it can last. Finally, this uncomfortable reality forces us to rethink what winning really means. Is triumph merely reaching the top regardless of the cost? Or is there a path to sustainable success that respects our deepest principles and still allows us to stand out in a relentless world? Nietzsche, with his radical critique of traditional morality, does not offer easy answers, but opens space for deep reflection on how to navigate this game of power, where true strength lies in transcending limitations, not succumbing to them. What do you think is more important for true success? Unwavering strength or maintaining integrity? Versus slave morality. Friedrich Nietzsche offers us a powerful lens to understand the conflict between different types of morality that govern human choices and the dynamics of power. He describes a historical duel between two distinct morals, the morality of the masters and the morality of the slaves. This division is not only philosophical, but a key to understanding why some people dominate and others remain subjugated. For Nietzsche, morality is not a universal or unquestionable truth. It is a product of power relations, a creation of the circumstances and interests of dominant groups. Master morality is the morality of the strong, the conquerors, those who affirm their will with confidence and determination. It values strength, courage, ambition, autonomy. For those who follow this morality, what is good is that which strengthens oneself. That increases power and the capacity to shape the world around them. There is no need for external approval, since self-worth is defined internally. The master does not shame their will to power. They celebrate it as a legitimate expression of their existence and their right to dominate. In contrast, slave morality arises from impotence and submission. It is the morality of the oppressed, those who cannot impose their will directly and need to protect themselves by other means. This morality glorifies humility, patience, sacrifice, and suffering. It sees strength as something perverse and power as something to be feared or repudiated. For the slave, the good is what helps survive in a world dominated by the strong, and the evil is what represents strength and domination. This moral inversion, according to Nietzsche, is a psychological adaptation that allows the weak to survive amid oppression. This conflict between the two moralities is not only a philosophical abstraction, it manifests in daily life, politics, business, and human relationships. Those who adhere to slave morality tend to value justice, equality, and compassion, but can become passive in the face of competition and the struggle for power. Those who follow master morality act assertively, often ignoring imposed rules, and are willing to take what they want without asking permission. Success for Nietzsche is more aligned with this second stance, with the courage to affirm one's own will. However, this reality brings a bitter irony. While slave morality tries to contain ambition and selfishness to create a fairer world, it ends up strengthening the dominion of the relentless by condemning the pursuit of power and shaming those who dare to impose themselves. Slave morality leaves the field open for those who do not care about moral judgment. It is as if goodness, limited by its own principles, becomes a prison, allowing the strongest to dominate with less resistance. Nietzsche does not glorify cruelty nor unrestrained selfishness. His critique is of how traditionally accepted moral conventions often benefit the weak at the expense of the strong, creating a dynamic where power is concentrated in the hands of those who do not care about ethics. This critique destabilizes the comfortable idea that the world must be just and that the good will necessarily win. Instead, he invites us to see power as a neutral reality, a fundamental force of life that needs to be understood and faced. But this does not mean we should abandon all morality. Nietzsche points to the possibility of a morality beyond the dichotomies between master and slave, a morality created by the individual who refuses to be defined by external rules and seeks self-overcoming. This is the figure of the Bermensch, who transcends the limitations imposed by inherited morals and creates their own values, their own path to power. The Bermensch is not an impulsive tyrant, but someone who masters themselves before trying to master the world. Therefore, understanding the conflict between these two moralities helps us grasp why the worst people, or rather those who embrace master morality, often dominate. They act with strength, decisiveness, and without fear of judgment, while good people hesitate, seek approval, and try to play by the rules. This confrontation between hesitation and relentlessness is what determines who truly rises to the top and who remains behind, trapped in their own goodness. To understand why relentless people often dominate, we need to dive into the depths of the psychology of power, where ambition, fear, and control intertwine in a brutal game. Power is not simply a matter of social position or wealth, but a phenomenon born inside the individual, in their mind, in their emotions, in their most primitive instincts. Those who rise to the top possess specific psychological traits that drive them to act without hesitation, to face risks boldly, and to use the tools of manipulation when necessary. Studies in behavioral psychology reveal that individuals with high levels of ambition, low sensitivity to fear, and a certain capacity for strategic empathy are the ones most likely to succeed in competitive environments. This empathy, however, is not sentimental compassion. It is the cold and calculating ability to understand others, to anticipate their moves, exploit their weaknesses, and control the game. The relentless are not necessarily psychopaths, but many exhibit characteristics that allow them to act without being bound by the limitations most impose on themselves out of fear of judgment or guilt, fear of failure, rejection. Loneliness is the mental prison that keeps many good people trapped in a life of hesitation and passivity. Those who hesitate before difficult decisions, who retreat from challenges, who cling to the desire to please and be accepted, rarely manage to move forward. On the other hand, the relentless embrace discomfort, confront fear head-on, and transform it into fuel for their will to power. This inner courage, this fire that burns incessantly, is what differentiates winners from losers on life's grand stage. Moreover, relentlessness is deeply linked to the ability to act without guilt or remorse when necessary. In a world where being good is often associated with being kind, merciful, and understanding, the relentless know that survival and success demand hard decisions. They do not let themselves be paralyzed by feelings of guilt or the need to justify their actions. This emotional strength is what allows some leaders, entrepreneurs, and conquerors to advance even in the face of opposition, betrayal, and loss. But do not be mistaken, relentlessness without purpose is destruction. Power without wisdom is a trap that leads to ruin. Many who reach the top quickly through manipulation or brute force end up falling with a crash. They are victims of their own game, consumed by boundless ambition and lack of balance. The psychology of power shows that to be truly lasting success must be accompanied by a greater vision, a strategy that unites strength, purpose, and emotional control. Here Nietzsche introduces the figure of the Bermensch, one who not only seeks power, but masters it with skill. The Bermensch understands that true power is not in dominating others, but in mastering oneself, one's instincts, fears, doubts. They act with a confidence that does not depend on external approval and create their own values to navigate a chaotic world. This self-overcoming is the key to transcending the limitations imposed by traditional morality and the psychology of fear. Thus, the psychology of power reveals why the most relentless people dominate. They internalize competition, transform fear into strength, learn to act decisively, and control their emotions. Meanwhile, those who cling to slave morality often lose the game due to hesitation, guilt, and idealism. Power, after all, is a game of hard reality and cruel rules, and winning requires understanding these rules without losing oneself in the process. We live immersed in a cruel paradox. Power seems to demand that we abandon our deepest values to conquer and maintain success, yet at the same time, it is precisely this loss that corrodes true strength. The challenge then is to discover if it is possible to be strong and relentless without becoming a tyrant, if there is a path to victory that does not pass through denying one's own moral essence. Nietzsche, by questioning traditional morality, urges us to find this answer in personal transformation and the creation of new values. History is full of examples of those who gave themselves over to the pursuit of power at any cost, and in the process lost their humanity, ending up isolated, distrustful, and consumed by the very empire they built. Power, when used as a tool of blind domination, becomes a prison, an emotional trap that feeds insecurity and loneliness. These relentless leaders may dominate the external world, but lose control over themselves. The true mark of failure. However, power is not inherently corrupting. Nietzsche does not propose that we abandon morality, but that we transcend it. He presents the idea of the Bermensch, the individual who creates their own values and is not a slave to inherited conventions. This powerful being does not allow themselves to be dominated by the passive ethics of submission, nor by unrestrained cruelty. Instead, they develop themselves to be dominated by the passive ethics of submission, nor by unrestrained cruelty. Instead, they develop and choose to be developing themselves to be dominated by the passive ethics of submission, nor by unrestrained cruelty. Instead, they develop a nebros in jokes the divine devote inner strength that allows them to act with freedom, responsibility, and authenticity, a power born from self-overcoming and mastery over their own shadows. This authentic power is sustained by wisdom, the ability to decide when to act with relentlessness and when to cultivate compassion, when to impose oneself and when to retreat, when to stand firm and when to adapt. It is the balance between strength and virtue, between boldness and prudence. True mastery lies in navigating this minefield without losing oneself, without giving up integrity, even in the face of the cruel pressures of the outside world. For many, this pursuit may seem utopian, even impossible. After all, the world seems to reward the ruthless and punish the good. But history also shows that strength without purpose is fleeting, while power rooted in solid values is lasting. Leaders, thinkers, and visionaries who left a true legacy were those who managed to harmonize the relentlessness necessary to win with an ethic of responsibility and creation. This leads us to reflect what really defines success. Is it rapid and temporary ascent, domination through fear and manipulation? Or is it the building of something greater that withstands time and transcends mere possession of power? Nietzsche invites us to abandon the false dichotomies between good and evil and to see power as a complex dance where it is possible to be strong and integrous, relentless, and just at the same time. In the end, winning without losing the soul demands an internal revolution. It takes courage to abandon old beliefs, face the abyss of the unknown, and create a new path. This is true power, not the power that oppresses others, but the one that frees oneself. Only then will it be possible to break the cycle, where the worst people dominate, and make space for integrity and strength to coexist in the game of life. Winning in a world dominated by relentlessness does not mean giving up your deepest values. On the contrary, true victory is born from the ability to balance strength and ethics, ambition and responsibility, The challenge is to act with the strategic clarity of the powerful without letting yourself be corrupted by a blind thirst for control. This is a difficult art that requires self-knowledge, emotional discipline, and the courage to carve your own path that does not depend on others' approval. First, it is essential to recognize that power is a neutral tool. It is neither inherently good nor evil, but can be used to create or destroy. The key lies in the intention and awareness with which the individual exercises their will. By understanding this, you can develop a mindset of inner mastery, where power serves to achieve your goals without sacrificing your integrity, nor manipulating for empty gains. It is the difference between being a tyrant of your own destiny or a slave to circumstances. Secondly, it is necessary to cultivate controlled relentlessness, the ability to act decisively facing challenges and making difficult decisions even when they go against others' opinions or cause discomfort. This relentlessness is not synonymous with cruelty, but with firmness. It is knowing how to say no, setting boundaries, and protecting your energy and purpose, even when traditional morality tries to punish you for it. The courage to act with conviction is what separates winners from those who remain on the sidelines, but acting with strength does not mean isolating yourself. One of the greatest misconceptions is thinking that to win you must abandon relationships and empathy. In fact, strategic empathy is a powerful differentiator. Deeply understanding the motivations, desires, and fears of others allows you to anticipate moves, build alliances, and avoid unnecessary conflicts. This empathy, combined with clarity of purpose, transforms competition into a game where you not only survive but master it. Another fundamental piece is constant self-overcoming, inspired by Nietzsche's philosophy. This process requires that you are always evolving, questioning your own limitations, and expanding your horizons. Sustainable power comes from those who are not content with the comfort zone, who see discomfort as fuel for growth, and who never stop creating and recreating themselves. This continuous renewal is what differentiates true leaders from those who fall into the complacency trap. It is also necessary to learn to deal with failure and defeat without losing faith in yourself. Many good people succumb because the pain of setback paralyzes them, while the relentless see failure as a lesson and opportunity to adjust strategy and move forward. Winning without abandoning integrity means accepting the harsh reality of the world, but never allowing it to corrupt your essence. This resilience is the foundation of lasting power. Furthermore, mastering the game of power requires the ability to create real value, whether in a business, a project, or a personal cause. True power is not about taking from others, but about building something that transforms, inspires, and is indispensable. When your power is grounded in creation, it becomes self-sustaining. It does not need manipulation or coercion to maintain itself. This is the power of the Bermensch, a creative, authentic, and transcendent power. Finally, winning without losing the soul is an invitation to radical courage. The courage to be who you really are, to follow your own path and face the consequences of it. It is not an easy path because it challenges the comfortable narratives of morality and justice we were taught to believe. But it is the only path for good people to stop fighting in vain and become the true masters of their own destiny, conquering power without giving up integrity. Conclusion: the true journey of power and integrity. The truth is harsh in the game of power. The relentless often dominate because they understand the rules that many ignore. But what distinguishes true winners from those who only rise to fall shortly after is the ability to unite strength and integrity, ambition and purpose. Nietzsche shows us that we do not need to abandon our values to conquer the world. We can transcend the limitations imposed by traditional morality and create a new path more authentic and powerful. If you are someone who has already felt the weight of injustice, who has seen the worst people prosper while goodness struggles to survive, know that there is a third path, the path of conscious relentlessness, self-overcoming, and inner mastery. It is not easy, but it is the only true way to transform your life and your destiny. Without losing yourself along the way, power is not the enemy, but the means by which we can create, transform, and ultimately conquer freedom. If this video awakens something in you, If you want to understand more deeply how to become a true master of your own destiny, subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and activate the bell to not miss the next content that will guide you on this intense and transformative journey. Here you will find not only philosophy, but practical tools to revolutionize your mind and your personal power. Some think this was the end, but beware, the war is not over yet. There are still things left unsaid. These two videos in front of you are not here by chance. And what if everything you believe about yourself is just a reflection of someone else's gaze? Click now on one of the videos beside you and start breaking that mirror. You will have to risk the click. So which one will you choose?